Welcome to Devon, they said. Yeah, that's right across Exmoor, that one. I'm missing us. The wind's coming from that direction. Westerly breeze. That way's north. Up there. Right, before we put the centre console section back in here, I thought I'd just test all the electrics. So I know that the blower is working nicely. All of the controls are working. The only one I haven't been able to check yet is the vacuum to the control at the top there, but that's not too much of an issue. I've not checked all the switches and stuff that go on to the centre console. I can do that once the centre console's in place. Pardon me, hickety-uppity. The other thing I was checking was the radio unit, which only works on that door. So neither of those two at the back there, nor these two work. So what I've done is I've borrowed the Hawking Great speaker out the back of Sandy, and then all I do is I just go across, because this is working, and then on the front driver's door, if I go to the, because what I'm really doing is just trying to establish whether the whether the problem is within the loom or whether it's actually within the speakers themselves. So this is the speaker wire as it goes into the door. So if I break that and balance my phone, which you can't see, right, well, I will test this just by touching the two wires in. Yeah, that works. So the loom works. Loom's working, speakers are not working. So the problem's going to be inside the door somewhere. I don't know yet. Why I bother sometimes. So I've just wrestled with this heater, and because I didn't want to decompress the aircon. And some twat has already cut the pipe. Again, previous owner. So someone's already cut it, which explains why there's no belt on it. That's a shame, because these hoses are unobtainium, so I'll have to try and get hold of one, I think, from a spare parts provider, because the aircon in these things is really very, very, very good. But someone snapped that, you see. That is not connected. It's just wrapped a bit of tape around it. How stupid is that? Right, okay, so that's utterly pointless. I shan't even bother putting the other clip on there because it's just utterly pointless. Right, okay, what we have done though is we've topped up the cooling system and we're ready to start up. Now, I've not put the new cap on yet because I just want to set a baseline. Obviously, having had the entire dash apart, seats out and everything, no steering wheel still. Big pot of change that I found. Right, so I want to see if things like LPG, solenoids and stuff like that still work. If I can get the key in, I'm sure I can. Put a bit of fur around it. There we are, keys in. Right, okay, LPG is on. We're in neutral. Okay, that looks quite good, promising. I found out what the problem is down there, by the way. I'll give you a torch. What I wanted to do was to actually warm this thing up and check it pressurizes. So let me put the stuff down there. Just check we haven't got a coolant leak, because that's kind of where I was messing around with the pipes. No, it's just a bit of old coolant that was down there anyway. Right, so we've got the problem with the aircon, the problem with these fuel lines being fiendishly close to the exhaust. I don't know why, but they are. That's okay. Right, let me put the rad cap back on. La 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 la. Pause. Right, so as you can see, it's settled down to a fairly calm idle now. Tick down here, by the way. Let's see if I can get my torch onto it. You see the exhaust manifolds down there. You see the exhaust manifolds? You can't really. in, 2 of the bolts are loose. I can see them. The washers are spinning on them. A lot of moisture in this exhaust again. The car's been standing and it's been quite cold. Oh look. Oh. Oh. That's not something we've had before. Got a bit of a problem with the motor though, I think. Well, that's fairly easy to resolve. The park switch doesn't know where it's parking. See if the washer works as well. Might be working, I don't know. Let me just get it back to a park state again. Might be actually the rear wash right relay, because normally when you, regardless of whether the wash is working or not, when you go into a wash it should sweep 4 times and then park. Right, running on petrol at the moment. Now my theory, right, is that going to park? When that parks I'll turn the wiper off, because I can't get the fucking tailgate. Right. You bastard. I might have to take the arm off. That's some weird issue there, isn't it? Yeah, that's got no idea what it's doing. I'm just going to undo the nut on it, because it's probably going to... I don't want it to start wiping while I've got the tailgate open. Bum, 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 bum. You don't need to watch me find my tools. This is Wheels and Stones. I've got all these boxes. These are old metal oil cans. One of the lads down the road has got hundreds of them. And he just decided he didn't want quite a few of them, so he donated them to a worthy cause. If you've got things you want to donate to a worthy cause, get in touch with me. Right, these wipers are quite easy to get off. Still quite a lot of condensation there. Right, that comes up. You just lift the nozzle up and then you undo the nuts. There he goes. The nut comes off, and then lift the wiper up at an angle, wiggle him backwards and forwards, and he should come off in your hand for now. Oh, misses, it come off in my hand. Right, okay, that's that off. I'll pop the nut back on there just in case. I mean, it's a metric thread, so it's not the end of the world if I lose it. I've got hundreds of the damn things. I'm gonna, now I know there's power going through to the wiper, I can sort that out. Right, one of the things I've got here is that the central locking hasn't unlocked the boot yet for some reason. So we're going to have to turn off, unlock, turn back on again. That's a faff. For some reason the automatic central locking doesn't always open. Right, okay, so the problem we've got with the engine, this is the oil the owner's been putting into it. It's a 1040 semi-synthetic motor oil. Mobil, nice brand they are, Super 2000, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Not what I put in there. I put a full mineral 2050 in there. And I think, just as a theory, I think that cranking this thing over for God knows how long when we had the non-start issue, drained whatever oil there was in a 170,000 mile old tappet. Tappets do wear out eventually, and they've got little seals in them. I'll show you what a tappet looks like actually. I've got a couple over here. These are out of my engine. So these are done 195,000 miles. That's a hydraulic tappet. I shall clean up and disassemble for you. But there's a tiny little oil feed hole there. This is an oil gallery, oil feed hole. Oil goes into it, stays in it, pumps it up, and that's what takes up the play. And that sits on the camshaft, and the push rod sits in there. So they're very, very simple. But what we had when we first started this thing up in episode 1, and certainly the beginning of episode 2, was a very, very clattery, loose tappet or two at the back end on this side, so around cylinder number 8. And as the engine warmed up, that went away. So it was either some crap that's in the oil that blocked up the oil hole, in which case it resolved itself, or it was the fact that the tappet had drained itself down. But wrong oil's being used, which is probably not going to help oil pressure, but it certainly won't help oil consumption, because I think a 10 mix, especially semi-synthetic, is going to be kind of, it's going to, you know, go past the oil ring, the piston rings, the oil control ring possibly. Right, let's start up again. Still going to sort that out, don't worry about that. Right, that's okay. Right, let's just tip that light in there, because I want to put this back in the boot while I've got it open. This chap needs to go back up over there, which I can't reach. Now, lights are working. Mine did do this after being left for a while. That's quite a lot of condensation though, isn't it? We say quite a lot today. Today is an day. Right, as pressure going into the system, I should put the heater on as well, shouldn't I? Because now we've got a blower. Oh! The heater's on, because I want to drain through to the heater. We'll see if we get hot air at the top of the dash. Headlining's all baggy. We know that. If you put in a new headlining in, by the way, on one of these, and I haven't done a video of that, but I've done it a couple of times on that one. First time I used just a normal fabric adhesive, and the second time when I did it, I used a Martrim high temperature adhesive. And using the Martrim adhesive has made the world of a difference. So if you're going to do headlining, put your chain back in your car, if you're going to do your headlining, strongly suggest you use the Martrim high temperature adhesive. There we are. Right. We're not getting hot air through this thing, yeah? Temperature gauge has already gone up. Give it a minute or two. Probably just needs to burp its way through. Leaks, have we? There's no point putting an aircon belt on it, because as you know, that's foo bar. We're still running on 7. You can see jiggle on it. Top hose to start warming up, then I know it's thermostat's opened. Oh, the other thing I was going to do was, apparently it doesn't always go into reverse. Very heavy throttle in this. Part of the reason why I think I might actually disconnect the throttle cable and see if it's the throttle cable or whether it's the plenum. Right, it's going to reverse, straight into reverse, and into drive, straight into drive. So there's nothing wrong at the moment with this. I know the customer's reported that he's had problems with it doesn't always choose the right gear. So we're into 1, 2, 3, drive, neutral, reverse, park, a little cough. Yeah, let me disconnect the throttle cable, because that idle speed is all over the place. And what we'll do, there is something as well up here, there's a belt loose. I think, yeah, it's going to be the water pump belt is loose. So I'm going to disconnect the throttle cable, which is over here. Dead easy to do. All you have to do is pull this little split pin out. There's a cutter pin that goes through it. It's not a good test, right. There is a very, very old split pin. And then we just push the cotter pin out. Careful not to lose him down the back of the engine. I'll have to flip the throttle open slightly in order to retrieve. I'm going to go two-handed. Cotter pin out. Right, and then we can literally just wiggle this connector and the whole throttle cable then comes out. There's throttle cable all the way, and he goes up over here somewhere onto the bulkhead. So we need to find out where he's been routed to. There he is, down there. No, he isn't. Where's he gone? He's over there. There's the throttle cable out. It's taking a bit of a route to get round to the plenum. It's not going to help it. Let's untangle it from all of these bits here. In fact, is it tie wrapped on there? It is tie wrapped on there, I think. And that is fine. There's no problem at all with that. I'll just put the cruise control thing on there. It shouldn't interfere with it in any way whatsoever. Sorry, you can't see that. Let's get him largely straight and see if the throttle pedal action is any lighter. Oh, this door isn't any lighter. Yeah, throttle pedal is as light as a daisy now. Light as a feather. And it bounces straight back up to the top. So there's no issue there with the fulcrum pin. That is operating nicely. And we can do the same thing with this end of the throttle cable. We can pull it out, push it back in again. Yeah, I think that's all right actually. Let's just go round here. Over this fiendishly heavy door again. I'd argue that that is fine. So it's possibly the tight route that the throttle cable was going through, or there's a problem with the throttle body, which is less likely. So let's pop this, because the route I'd normally send these things is lay them in an arc, and that's kind of how they go, lay them across the top, and then I just like tie wrap onto there. You can see it's kind of over the top of everything, and in this area. You don't want it kind of taking quite tight S-bends around the pump and then it's going all over the place. Right, so I'll start up again and we'll see now if the idle works better with no throttle cable on it, because that might have fixed that. Stinking fuel around here. That, by the way, that pipe there's the sunroof drain. Drops back to idle really quickly. So I think the throttle cable was causing your high idle. I think when you turn it on and it goes up to 1600 RPM, I think that's a problem with the stepper valve, and I'll go into that now. Right, stepper valve is up here. And I don't know why the heater's not working, because these coolant pipes are hot. That's hot, and that's hot. So please don't tell me we've got a bunged up matrix, because that's the one thing I didn't fucking check for. and that will be an utter ball's ache. But at least I know now the air conditioning is not connected, and one of the pipes is broken anyway, so it can just be cut off. Right, okay. That's the electrical connector into the stepper valve, and normally they have a big clip on them, and for some reason the clip's broken off. Okay, so that's the first part. So we don't know if the stepper valve is actually going in the right way around. The valve itself can be taken out fairly easily. Let me just push the coolant hose over the back so we can see what's going on. There's the stepper valve, big old thing there with a. I'm going to get the bigger adjustable pause. I'll tell you one thing that's not probably helping is it's not very tight. This they should be a little bit, you know, they should be nipped in. It's barely finger tight. Right, now what's it trapped on? It's trapped on the coolant hose. This is where these LPG systems don't always help. The hose is about 1 millimetre longer than it needs to be, which doesn't allow it much flex when it comes to moving shit around the engine bay. Right, now when this thing comes out, it is a stepper motor, so you're not going to, well, you can test them, but it sort of involves plugging it into the loom and then giving it some grief. Now on the end there, that little plunger goes in and out on the spring. That's the side where the clip should be, so we need to make sure that when it goes back in again, in fact what I'll do is I'll put a red dot on this and on the connector so I know it's going in the right way round, because that is not going to help if this thing's not in the right way round. What I then use is a brake cleaner. If I've got any brake cleaner, I'll use that. If I haven't got any brake cleaner, electrical contact cleaner, that'll do. This stuff's probably danger! Danger. And all I would do with this is, I'm not going to trap him in the vise, I just want to mount him on the vise so he doesn't fall out. And I'm going to work this stuff into the end, give it a second to fizz away, and then tip it all out. That's all I normally do to clean those, and I do it kind of at service intervals. It's difficult to know if the thing's actually working, but the fact that it does settle into an idle eventually would indicate to me that it is working. Now, the other thing that's important, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but on the back here, down here, let's get my fucking torch. Torch is in my pocket. Down the back, that box of tricks there that's just on the end of the torch, that is the fuel return. And it's got a vacuum pipe that goes on the back of it and goes up to the back of the housing here for the stepper motor. Now if that's missing, that's one of the vacuum pipes that sometimes will cause issues. And is it there? There's a vacuum pipe there, but it doesn't feel like it's attached. Oh, that might be a problem then. Let me get my two hands in there, because that's certainly not going to help, is it? Right, that's it, and it's not vacuum pipe. So, and it's also split and crazed. You can see that that is in pretty poor order. So I'm going to replace that. I've got some more. Tell me it's not vacuum pipe, 'cause it's disintegrating while I'm holding it. I might put some gloves on. Right, let's go and get some vacuum pipe, and I'm going to remake, or I'm going to just get, well, what I was actually in here to do was to double check that this vacuum pipe looks like it's split there. But that's not too much of a problem because we've got about 1.5 miles of this stuff. Let me, so if I pull, this is the ball, the vacuum ball for the heater. You can see there's a big chunk taken out of it, comedy chunk. If I take that off, there's a joiner up here. Why is there a joiner? But this is vacuum pipe, you see. This is the stuff I'd expect to find on the distributor and certainly on the cruise control. Good grief. Right, let me get this thing back together again. Now, what I was going to show you earlier on was the bolts on the exhaust manifold. So, that bolt, let me get the camera right down there. It's going to be a bit warm because that bolt is loose. You can see the washer is rattling around on it, and then the one that's just beyond it, that's there, it's hanging out. Which is why the exhaust is blowing up there. Now there's no point me tightening it because it's just going to need a new gasket. And it hasn't got lock washers on it, so I tend to use the lock tabs. They're a pain in the arse to put on, but they're worth it because it means that the bolts, which only do up to about 15-20 foot-pounds, don't then just undo. Right, the other thing I am going to do, and I know you wanted to kind of save your pennies, Tim. I'm not happy that this thing up here is working at all. It took several goes to actually get it to unlock just now. Now it's unlocked, it unlocks. It also rattles. It's got the seal on it, but it probably could do with going in a bit further. It's because the metal plate's missing off the top of the Aegean flip. Right, let's start lock again. Oh! I'm going to go around and lube all these doors up because I don't think my shoulders can cope with any more of this. Now, the other thing I noticed is the plunger for the alarm sensor on the bonnet is missing. So there should be a plunger on that. Mine hasn't got one either. And I got around the problem by disconnecting it. The connector is just up behind it. And I just pulled the connector out. To hell with the bonnet alarm because the plunger's missing off the top. But if I hold that down, or if I force that down, now it's going to stay down because it's particularly sticky. Right. So that just armed, and now it's unarmed, and now it doesn't know what it's doing. I suspect what's happening now is the alarm is going off, but the hooter is missing from the bulkhead, from the deck. So I shall disarm. So that is what's stopping your alarm from working, your alarm immobiliser. However, we've locked and unlocked. Doors unlock. Does tailgate unlock? No. See, tailgate has not unlocked. Lock. Unlock. No. And if I put my hand on here, I can feel the solenoid moving. I've got to fiddle around and get the bloody tailgate open again now because the tailgate's locked again. Arsehole. Shouldn't have bloody unlocked it, should I? But that's going to need to, it probably needs a bit of adjustment on it. These things are notoriously fickle. I've had problems with these before where you can't get them unlocked properly. Pain. But we're getting there, we're getting there, we're getting. I think you're tight throttle now. So what I was going to do was I was going to replace the little pipe to the back of the plenum, which is split. It's not going to help. And I'm going to check the other vacuum hose that goes from the side of the plenum through to the vacuum ball and make sure that's holding a vacuum. It's got a big chunk taken out of it, but I can soon shorten it because we've got about this much spare. All right. Right, it's tightened it all up. We've got more water going to the vaporizer. Let's start up again. See if we can't get this heater unit working. So, is that quicker? I think it is. Yeah, lights are working on the dash, which is good. Got only one bulb down here. I went through my stash. I haven't got another bulb. It's a shame. But all the dash lights are working, which is nice, isn't it? Your clock's a lot brighter than mine. Yeah. Right. Are we going to get hot air through this thing? Not yet. Let's give it a minute or two. Pick up some of the rubbish in here. What's the throttle like now? about 2.5 million times better, I'd say. Still heavy. I mean, bearing in mind it's cold. Oh, it's got, oh, of course this is Vogue SE, isn't it? So it's got the, what's its name, control. Auto-dimming rear mirror, which doesn't have any power to it. I thought these things had power. This hasn't got any power to it at all. I thought a light came on there. Yeah, the courtesy lights are working. Let's go and check that flap closed, by the way. Sounds like it's closed. That was one of the things I wanted to do, wasn't it? Yes, it has. So we know the vacuum's working. We know the solenoid's working. Foggy's off. Yeah, I have to work out what on earth is going on here. It's just lukewarm air that's coming out, and it should be blistering hot, so I suspect the matrix is a little bunged up, and what then is happening is, because it's got the LPG is, I guess, taking the bulk of the flow. Let me explain. I'm going to turn this off for a minute. So, air off, lights off. So what we've basically got here, torch. What we have got, we've got the heater rail that goes out, the heater input and output rail, and then normally what would happen is the heater pipes that go to the heater would come off these stubs here and here. However, we've got a T-piece which goes around the back of the engine and goes to over there. So I know, for instance, that that pipe is red hot. The return pipe is red hot. What I can't do is get down the back to find out if the heater pipes are red hot too. I suspect not. I suspect that the matrix is slightly bunged up, or maybe one of these hoses is crimped as I've put it in. I'll get it working tomorrow. It's not going to be catastrophic. It really isn't. Every now and then we fuck up just a tiny bit. So heater matrix is a bit bunged up, and I remember when I took it out it was rusty, and I really should have flushed the bloody thing when it was on the deck. But this is how I'm going to do it now. So basically I've got the convenience of the two LPG hoses here. I know the car's been running without antifreeze, which is probably why it's got rusted in the core anyway. So I've used an old Ryoka core, which I've cut in half and put a couple of screws on the end, wedged those into the ends of the hoses that goes into the engine, and I'm going to use the LPG hoses here to flush the system. I'm not quite sure which is in and which is out at the moment, but we'll give it a go. So very, very, very gently putting water into the system, and then back flushing it and flushing it and back flushing it and flushing it and back flushing it, and see if we can get all the rust and crap out of it. But that's most likely going to be able to fix this problem the quickest. Don't have to run the engine, don't have to do anything with it. I don't particularly like the rad flush kind of solutions, because sometimes they can do a little bit more damage than good. I've also heard that Coca-Cola's pretty good at getting shit out of a heater matrix, which I might try. So basically what I need to do is to pour the Coca-Cola into a higher pipe, and then when the Coca-Cola starts coming out of the lower pipe, we know that we're kind of, the system is full of cola. I'm not sure if it's diet cola or full fat, or probably full fat, but it's quite good at dissolving rust and other shit. We've all seen what it does to babies' milk teeth, and also to pennies. So I'll try the water flush first of all, and then it's going to be a tin of cola, leave it in there for a day and see what happens. It's working. This water's particularly murky, but it's coming through clean now. So I'm going to swap the hoses over and back flush. I don't know if this is a back flush or a forward flush. So let me pause for a second. This is the... Oh, fuck me, look at the sediment that's in here. Ugh. Right, the water's coming through at a reasonable rate now, and it's coming through clearer. But there's still an incredible amount of sediment coming through. If I get the hose out of there and just put that onto the floor, you can see all the crap in there. And the bucket wasn't that dirty. These are big lumps. And this is spring water that's going in here. It's filtered spring water. That would have been, I think someone said, because we're in North Devon now, someone said that this spring water here would have come by rainfall into the Brecon Beacons. Oh, I might need a tinkler in a minute if this carries on like this. What I might do is I'm going to clean the bucket quickly with a brush, and I'm going to change the hoses over. So I'm going to flush, reverse flush, flush, reverse flush, flush, reverse flush, flush, reverse flush. As you can see, we're not talking a huge amount of volume here. I am going to need a tinkler if that carries on like that. I'm fairly confident we'll have this heater working. Oh yes. That was a good one. Look at the state of this. Murky as fuck. But again, we're getting quite good flow out of this. Big lumps in there. Should do this back and forth a couple of times. Probably won't need the Coca-Cola. Probably been helpful if I'd done this when it was on the bench, but never mind, we can recover. Cool, there's a black sky for you. Look at that one. We've got Storm Dennis coming in this weekend. It's going to be fun. I'm going home shortly because I need to go see my beautiful missus, because tomorrow is the American institution, otherwise known as Valentine's Day. And just going to siphon that right out. Right, and then I'm back on Sunday. Now let's have a look at this, see what comes out this time. I mean, look at the sediment that's in there. That lot down there all came out. All of that lot. Quite a lot, this time changed the technique slightly. So the hose was on there, and when I was kind of draining the hose through, I was kind of blocking it off, unblocking, blocking, unblocking, just doing that. Look at the state of this stuff that's come out of there. Can you see the bottom of that bucket? Because I can't. And look at the amount it's got out of here just by doing that slightly different technique. Grit. Working. This. Right. Okay, so we get a good old back pressure on it. And then we look in the water after we've done that, and again another load of crap just came through. So it's working. I'm sure Pepsi Cola would have done this a lot quicker, or sorry, Coca-Cola, or maybe not Diet Cola, I don't know. Maybe own brand cola works just as well, I don't know. All I can see that action is doing is just building up the pressure inside the matrix. and then releasing it suddenly. And the sudden flow, I think, is releasing crap out of the cooling system. Anyone else fancy a tinkle? I'm rather hoping that the solution is going to be the bunged up matrix, because certainly it's got a lot of crap in it. However, water or coolant will more often than not flow in the easiest path, and if there's resistance to going through the heater core, then it may find it just a little bit easier to go straight through the LPG vaporizer, or whatever that, I can't remember, the brain's gone blank. Evaporator. No, that's the ring. My brain's gone completely blank. Anyway, so if the coolant's coming along the pipe, you may find it's easier to go down that path than down that path. Now, the water is coming through a lot clearer, so what I'll do, see if we can get that over the hedge. Ah, yes. That was some good flow. That was good flow. Oh, did shift quite a lot of shit though. All back together again. System refilled. That's where the Pella 6000 really comes into its own, because it allows you to recover the LPG, sorry, recover the, let's put it onto petrol. That's interesting. Why are we doing that? Here's a new problem. Oh, we're back here again. We're back. Don't want to fucking do nothing. Oh, hang on a sec, the alarm's enabled. The alarm's off. The alarm was enabled. I don't quite know why that was. No, the alarm's enabled again. Let's lock it and unlock it. Tell the alarm's enabled, because... Right. Unlocked. Locked. No alarm. Unlocked. Let's try now. The alarm was activated. Right, now heater's on. That exhaust is getting noisier. We have success. So the engine's only just started to warm, and I've got toasty warm air billowing from the heater. Go to cold, and the heat goes off. Go to hot, heat comes on. So that simple back flush has resolved the heater problems. Lot less steam problems today. There was obviously moisture in the exhaust. Throttle's behaving itself. Well, it's behaving itself as well as mine does. Then it drops to 1,000 and then it drops down slowly. So it should drop in a second. There we are. That's normal. That's what mine does. Oh my goodness, we haven't got the steam problem. I mean, there's quite a lot of moisture coming out of the exhaust, but that's condensation that's in the system. I'm sure of it. Right, I'm happy. Heater's working. I can bugger off home now, safe in the knowledge that one job is complete. Thank you.